This story begins in the United States of America on August 17th, 2019, centered on a 15-year-old girl named Zaria Burgess. She was a resident of Union County, North Carolina, born on December 3rd, 2003, to her mother, Aisha Pope, and her father, Joshua Burgess. Aisha and Joshua were only teenagers themselves, around 16 or 17, when Zaria was born, and their relationship didn't survive. Long after her birth, they went their separate ways, and Aisha was granted full custody of Zaria, largely due to Joshua's criminal record. However, Joshua still had visitation rights for Zaria on the weekends. From all outward appearances, Joshua projected the image of a devoted father. He frequently took to social media, making numerous posts about how much he adored his daughter. He often called her a miniature version of himself, and in one particular post, he wrote, "I love this angel more than anything." Zaria was a student at Monroe High School, about to start her sophomore year. She was in the marching band, and her friends remembered her as a bright, bubbly person who always kept her teammates laughing. She excelled academically, and by every measure, had a very promising future. Her father, Joshua, was a truck driver who had recently changed companies specifically so he could spend more time with Zaria, but the cheerful photos Joshua posted online masked a horrifying reality. On August 17th, 2019, Zaria was getting ready to spend the weekend with her father. Joshua pulled up to the house in his truck to pick her up, and together they drove over to his place. After they arrived and went inside the home, the precise details of what transpired next remain grimly uncertain. The next morning, Joshua emerged from his house and walked into the Union County Sheriff's Office at about 9:24 a.m. Inside that station, he was about to make a horrific confession. He approached an officer sitting behind a desk and calmly stated that he wanted to turn himself in for a crime that he had committed. The officer asked for Joshua's name to check the system, but Joshua interrupted, telling him his name wouldn't be on record for this, because the crime had just taken place. He then said, "I've just killed someone." Hearing these words, the officer quickly summoned other deputies in the station, and Joshua was led into a room for questioning. He was processed, and it was then that this haunting photograph of him was taken. He confessed to the officers that he had murdered his own daughter. He provided Zaria's name, her age, and the location where her body could be found inside his house. A unit was dispatched to the address to see if Joshua's story was true. Upon entering the home, they discovered Zaria's body lying in a pool of blood. She had been bound and left just inside the front door. Zaria was completely naked, and it was immediately obvious to the officers that her throat had been slashed and that her body was covered in cuts. Joshua was arrested on the spot and began to provide information about the heinous crime. According to multiple reports, he was unnervingly calm and displayed no emotion as he recounted the details of the murder. News of Zaria's death spread rapidly. Union County Sheriff Tony Underwood said, "It's just evil. I mean, murder is murder, but to kill your own flesh and blood like this, there's just no other way to explain it other than pure evil." A subsequent autopsy on Zaria's body revealed that she had endured extreme psychological and physical torture that lasted for over 22 hours. Joshua had attacked and restrained her. He then began to sexually assault his own daughter for nearly a full day. At some point during this ordeal, Joshua had tried to suffocate and strangle Zaria, but these attempts were apparently unsuccessful. It was at that moment, following 22 hours of horrific abuse, that he used a knife to cut her throat. The autopsy confirmed that the incision was profoundly deep. Investigators who worked the scene described it as one of the absolute worst cases they had encountered in their entire careers. One officer was quoted as saying, "The details of this murder are indescribable. Every officer and every detective involved in this case has felt the effects of what happened to this girl. There is no logical answer to explain why this man did what he is accused of doing. Our hearts and prayers are with the victim's mother and her family. As the community learned of the case, everyone wanted to know why a father would do this. The act was completely incomprehensible. People turned to the internet, searching for clues or any hint that might explain Joshua's motive. His social media profiles were put under a microscope. It wasn't long before someone found a deeply disturbing post on his Facebook. Joshua had published a photograph of himself showing off a collection of large knives, along with a caption that read, "I really like cutting people. Oops, I meant things. I like cutting things." Many viewed this as an eerie premonition of the violence to come. Joshua possessed a large collection of knives, and the blades featured in that Facebook post are thought to be the very ones he used to end his daughter's life. People also started digging into other posts Joshua had. A look at his Facebook profile revealed an unsettling interest in pages linked to white supremacist groups. While the specific pages he followed remain unconfirmed, his own wall was littered with highly disturbing images. This immediately sparked speculation that the brutal murder might have been racially motivated, but that wasn't the only theory. Investigators also discovered that Joshua followed several satanic-themed pages, prompting some to wonder if he was involved in a satanic cult and whether his daughter's murder was some form of twisted ritual. In the days following her death, those who knew Zaria began to share their stories. Friends recalled Zaria telling them her father had grown, increasingly volatile and angry. It reached a point where she confessed to several people that she was terrified of her weekend visits with him. When Joshua's mugshot was released, many observed that he appeared to be on some sort of illicit drug. The consensus was that he was using meth, which could have fueled his expis, violent aggression, and ultimately led to the murder. It certainly wouldn't be the first time a horrific crime was linked to such a substance. Yet, I found no official reports confirming he was intoxicated when the attack occurred. As for his motive, Joshua provided a range of explanations, changing his story multiple times. He first informed police he had killed his daughter as an act of revenge against his ex-wife, Zaria's mother. He claimed he wanted to make her pay. Why, exactly, is not clear, but it was perhaps related to their relationship ending. Then, he altered his motive again, telling detectives he battled with lust and a lack of control. He admitted to lusting after his own daughter and being unable to restrain himself any longer. The trial began in 2022, but from what I can gather, many details were kept from the public at the time. According to people who attended the court proceedings, Joshua told authorities he was completely in love with Zaria and had grown jealous that she was getting older and would eventually start a relationship, leaving less time for him. He was adamant that no one else could have her, so he murdered Zaria and assaulted her repeatedly that night. Observers at the trial reported that Joshua had planned the entire killing and took immense pleasure in carrying it out. He called it the best 22 hours of his life. There was even footage of Joshua walking into the courtroom and flashing a small smile at someone, a truly chilling sight. After several weeks of testimony, Joshua was found guilty of murdering Zaria. The prosecutor's office called it a truly heinous, atrocious, and cruel murder of an innocent girl. This case was emotionally devastating for everyone who worked on it, and our hearts continue to go out to Zaria's mother. Given the horrific details of the crime, many in the public were calling for the death penalty. However, a jury's decision for capital punishment must be unanimous. Otherwise, the sentence automatically becomes life in prison. The jury deliberated for roughly 3 hours before delivering their verdict on his punishment. Joshua was sentenced to death. Due to the confidential nature of some evidence in this case, a great deal of speculation remains. Some rumors suggest that Joshua videotaped much of the murder. However, I was unable to find any concrete evidence of this. This theory, coupled with his known interest in Satanism and the occult, convinced some that he was in a depraved cult and had recorded the murder to distribute among its members. This case is overflowing with unconfirmed theories, so anything you read, Online should be approached with skepticism. A relative of Zaria said she was so young, and no one deserves to have their life stolen like that, especially not by the very person they believed would always protect them. It is always profoundly unsettling to view a killer's social media after their crime, but the fact that the victim was his own daughter, featured so often on his page, makes this case uniquely disturbing. Joshua's Facebook is still online, where countless people have left comments on his photos calling him evil and asking the same question, why and how could you do?